This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
He says that the establishment of diplomatic relations with China was one of the best decisions ever made in the history of his country. He admires the achievements of the Chinese government in alleviating poverty. He is eager to improve his country's development through cooperation. He condemns the way some countries use double standards and interference in other nations' internal affairs. He expresses serious concerns over Japan's discharge of radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. In this edition of Leaders Talk, we meet Manasseh Sogavare, Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands.
Hello and welcome to Leaders Talk, where we meet leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers. I'm Zou Yun. Our guest today is from a beautiful island country in the South Pacific. He's Manasseh Sogavare, the Prime Minister of Solomon Islands. Although China and Solomon Islands only established the diplomatic relations in 2019, the growing momentum was drawing great attention. Mr. Prime Minister is visiting China again after about 4 years. So how would he gauge the fruitful results of all-round exchanges and cooperation between the two countries? And what are some of his expectations for the development of the region? In today's Leaders Talk, let's take a listen about what he has to say.
The Solomon Islands are located in the southwest of the Pacific Ocean. This archipelago consists of more than 900 large and small islands and is known as the Islands of Happiness. It boasts spectacular natural landscapes, rich natural resources, and a unique cultural heritage. In September 2019, China and the Solomon Islands formally established diplomatic relations. Since then, the development of bilateral relations has been on the fast track, becoming a model of solidarity, cooperation, and joint development between big and small countries and between developing countries. 4 years on, Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare visited China again and announced the formal establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership of mutual respect and common development with China in the new era. On July 11th, Sogavare made a special trip to unveil the Solomon Islands Embassy in China. He expressed the hope that with the opening of the embassy, cooperation between the two countries will be further deepened.
Mr. Prime Minister, great to have you with us on Leaders Talk. Well, I know you arrived earlier today, and the last time you were here in China was about 4 years ago. So how does it feel to be back, and what expectations do you have for this trip?
Thank you very much. Like I said, when I arrived and was welcomed, and I said, it's good to be back home. We are looking forward to productive engagement during the course of the week.
The diplomatic relations between China and Solomon Islands was forged about 4 years ago. Well, despite a late start, the berates is progressing rapidly and catching up from behind. So, Mr. Prime Minister, if we look back, how do you view this decision about establishing diplomatic relations with China, and what do you think have been some of the major achievements along the way?
I think I was jokingly saying that in some interviews that we're lost in the wilderness for nearly 36 years. We gained independence in 1978, and that is 7 years after the United Nations made this crucial decision, this resolution 2758 in 1971 to recognize only one China, that is PRC, and Taiwan is an integral part of China. Mm-hmm. And so, as a country, after 36 years, and I made reference to that during our National Day celebrations, that if we look at some of the major decisions that we made during the course of the 45 years, forging diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China has to be one of the most important decisions. It is only three and a half years in the going, but the benefits are just simply huge.
And since the establishment of the diplomatic relations between the two countries, Solomon Islands have firmly adhered to the One China principle, and both countries have respected the independence, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of each other. So what is your take on, the action with the moves taken by some countries who are now trying to interfere with the Taiwan question?
There's only one China in the world. That's the message that comes out very powerfully. There's some countries that say, the United Nations make these decisions, but we will make our own decisions. Then you're not worthy member of the United Nations. And it's very sad. And that's why, after 36 years of wandering in the wilderness and placing the country on the wrong side of history, we switched relationship in 2019 to respect the decision by the United Nations, the highest decision-making body of this planet, to make the decisions. And I appeal to those countries that are still wandering in the wilderness to come to terms with their own decision. They have diplomatic ties with your great country. They recognize one China policy, and their actions contradicts that belief.
Well, the enhancing ties between China and Solomon Islands may seem to get on the nerves of some countries who are now accusing China of the so-called growing influence in our country and also even see it as a threat. What's your response to that?
It's really unfortunate. I think this is driven by, countries that have serious concern about what they term the expansion of Chinese influence in the world. What's wrong about that? What's wrong about that? Your president makes it very clear, no country is too small. You never come too late. We come after 36 years. But you're right, there are countries that criticize the relationship and the development cooperation that we entered into, which produced marvelous result and for us. And it was driven by this kind of people. People are concerned about the so-called, the influence of China. But for Solomon Islands, we're a sovereign state.
Right.
So it's China. And who we enter into diplomatic relations with, who we have development cooperation with, is none of anyone's business. And so far, all those big fears of debt trap and undermining the values of democracies are basically nonsense. It is just made up, excuses, because they fear that they are losing grip of small island states. And for Solomon Islands, for example, we have been with these people for more than 45 years, yesterday, the day before. If we remain like that forever, we will probably remain like that for the next 45 years. And that's not good for a country that is fast growing in population, but not in development. And so we do what is best for this country, and we enter into this diplomatic relations, the best decisions that we ever come up with in our existence as a nation. So we do not regret it, never turning back. It is the right decision to make.
Just now you called the diplomatic relations forged between China was one of the best options made by your government. Why is that?
We were 45 years as a nation. We start from scratch, and we are struggling right now to build and to have connectivities in roads and important infrastructures. They see these things. Right. These are things that we need. But the way we read things is that the strategies that they are following is that it is through aid. We must continue to receive aid from them. We are a very highly aid-dependent country. After 45 years journey, amidst plenty, we have forests in abundance. We have sea resources in abundance. We have minerals in abundance. We have, attractive tourism sites in abundance. We are poor. Now, that gets us thinking that we need to realign ourselves. If we stay like this for the next 45 years, probably we will stay like this forever. So that's why we open ourselves now to the opportunities in China and the trading arrangements, and it's just going very well. The way to go forward for Solomon Islands is trade, not aid. Trade and investment, not aid.
And especially the security cooperation between the two countries has triggered a backlash from some quarters. Yeah. How would you respond to those accusations?
Again, it's very, very unfortunate. What I, really find it very difficult to to understand, with all due respect to some of these great powers, that when they do it, it's good. And so they seem to be this thinking that, no, you must not have security arrangements with any other country. You must not do that. We find it very difficult.
In November this year, the 17th Pacific Games will be held in the Solomon Islands. It is the first time that the Solomon Islands host this sporting event. The stadium for this year's Pacific Games was built with Chinese aid. It was the first large-scale project built with Chinese aid after the establishment of the diplomatic relations of the two countries in 2019.
For this national stadium project, this is one of the biggest projects in Solomon Island, which is a major infrastructure uplift for us. We can finally have an avenue where the Solomon Island people can get together and experience several number of sports. So what this aid and the contractors did is really something that Solomon Island people will appreciate and be grateful for.
We do the project in Solomon Island, we find difference because we benefit of this project, and to help our local people to get money for the families, and we learn more skills to do the work. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, I want to show you some photos here and also here. I think you have recognized them, right? It is the Chinese built, right?
That's right.
Stadium project. Some people say, especially when the night falls, when the stadium gets illuminated by different lights, it looks like a sparkling pearl in South Pacific. And you were there on site, and you have referred it to as a milestone for Solomons when preparing for the Pacific Games. So how do you think the significance, not only for the stadium, but also some of the other infrastructures built with Chinese assistance?
The stadium, of course, is just a small demonstration of more good things that will come under the Belt and Road Initiative. And we signed that initiative with your great country in 2019, and we can see there's a result there. And as I said, if there's an indication of something to come, we are looking for something better in the future under this relationship. So we're excited.
Well, as you mentioned, more cooperation are expected, especially after Solomon Islands signed an MOU with China on the Belt and Road Initiative. So what's your take on the alignment of the Belt and Road Initiative as well as the national development strategy of your country?
Thank you very much. I think that's one of the weakest area of our national development strategy, 2016-2035. Our problem, of course, is how to implement the various strategies that are taken up in the document because of lack of capacity and be able to do that.
Mr. Prime Minister, just now you mentioned this abundant natural resources in Solomon Islands, for instance, fishery, the world famous tuna, mining, forestry. They are all major economic pillars of the country, and now both countries share a broad prospects for cooperation. So what are some of the other competitive products do you want to export to China? And also, if we take a closer look at the bilateral relations, what are some of the areas of, or new areas of cooperation do you see greatest potential?
Well, I must agree with you in the first statement about tuna.
Is it good? I have never tried them before.
We boast ourselves to have the best canned tuna in the region.
Okay, in the
so
region.
You just have to try it. So I think the former, the late ambassador made that comment, and he wants one day to see our canned tuna to be exported to China. But if you're correct, the country is just basically full of potentials. And right now, it just, the fear is that it might just remain as potentials. We really need to relate to it in a practical way for those resources to to help us, and that is to develop it. So there's strength, for example, in mining, as you mentioned, but that's non-renewable, and we are cautioned when it comes to the development of non-renewable resources. Right now, the major, of course, is timber, by way of round logs that are exported to China. So even before we forged diplomatic relations with a great country, China is already our biggest trading partners, and we would like to improve on that.
Mr. Prime Minister, you've met and held phone conversation with Chinese President Xi Jinping. So what kind of leader he is from your perspective?
Wow. I guess we just need to look at the achievements of this great country. And one of the things that is strikingly strike us, and this is what we touched on earlier on, because pulling people out of poverty, and that's a very, very big achievement. You can talk about other achievements to modernize this economy. So it's something that we admire, and it is something that countries should emulate. Now that leads me, it boils down to leadership. Because these achievements will not do not fall from the air. It comes up because someone or somebody is providing, that kind of leadership, and that's what we admire, the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. And you're asking more specifically about what you think about, President Xi Jinping. Well, you need to read somebody's mind to know about the man. Well, he produced about, I think, 4 volumes of book this thick. I got 4 copies, all the 4 copies of the book.
It's about the governance of the country.
The governance of China. And I was really privileged to be given 4 copies. And every time, and I said, I will be a standard recipient of any more volumes that will come from this great man. You can see somebody is concerned about his people. He's concerned about this country, and you can see where he wants to peg it, and that is clear from the books that he's and no wonder he's re-elected to be the leader of this great country.
Well, the world now is faced with so many uncertainties and unprecedented challenges. So what do you think is the significance of the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, as well as the Global Civilization Initiative proposed by President Xi?
Well, the Global Development Initiative, the world, as you probably rightly implied in here, is going through some unprecedented challenge. You really need to struggle to realign, countries, to bring them, to work, but not only bringing up themselves. We're talking about the entire world, because that's going to be a big disparity. If big countries only think about themselves, then of course we are still not doing justice to our obligation to move together as a nation. The Global Development Initiative is about that.
It's about a shared future.
It's a shared future. For all. This is our planet, this is our world. And that is an admirable initiative. It is something that it should get the attention of the world and seriously discuss, and should be integrated into our development strategies. Talking about Global Security Initiative. Well, the world is crazy now. That initiative comes at the right time. The Global Security Initiative, wonderful idea. This initiative has the concern of the human race in mind. We admire that.
Mr. Prime Minister, Solomon Islands is also known as a spectacular destination for tourism, right? Especially a unique paradise for divers. So, can you give us a little bit idea about what kind of adventure we may get if our viewers could one day really get a chance to visit there?
We have some of the world. You might be surprised to know that. We have the longest lagoon in the world. So it's a turning point of the Second World War. It's just basically big, the sea in front of Onir City, for example, has about more than 1,000 boats in a warship sunk there. It's called the Iron Bottom Sun. It's just a big war museum there that you'll be able to see. We're also part of the Coral Triangle Initiative. We protect our corals. We boast to have some of the best diving spots in the world. And it's just there for us, to develop and for people to come. So what I'm saying is that the country has a lot of potential, and we see tourism as the future of Solomon Islands. And as much as possible, we would like to keep the environment free from degradations and that. So it is the industry of the future, the way we look at it.
Talking about environmentally friendly, as you mentioned before, that the Solomon Islands has a very special geographical makeup. Well, this very special geographical makeup has, on the one hand, give unique natural endowment to the country, but also at the same time make it more vulnerable to climate change and pollution. So, Mr. Prime Minister, with that in mind, how concerned are you about the decision made by the Japanese government about discharging nuclear contaminated water into the ocean and its potential threat to your country?
Well, we are very much concerned about that. As you know, the ocean means life to us, small countries in the Pacific Ocean. We depend on the sea and our tuna. Well, so more than 50-60% of the tuna resources in the world come from the Pacific, and especially the northern part of the Pacific, where Solomon Islands is a part of the Partners to Nauru agreement, and we control nearly 60% of the tuna resources and other sea resources as well. So obviously, all Pacific Island countries will be concerned about that decision. We actually sent a delegation of Pacific leaders led by the Prime Minister of Cook Islands and to visit Japan and had serious discussions with them. Our position is just clear, and it's clear. It has to be, their scientists need to be open to our scientists. All the information that we need. It will probably be raised again in the coming Pacific Island Forum Leaders Summit. But to answer your question directly, we are seriously and gravely concerned. If it is not safe, then don't discharge it. That's a simple message of the Pacific Island countries.
Well, another concerning issue is the United States, the UK, and Australia have announced a pathway to nuclear submarine cooperation, while Solomon Islands has ratified the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone Treaty and firmly supports denuclearization in the region. So what impact do you think AUKUS will bring to the peace and stability of the region?
You make reference to the treaty, called it Rarotonga. Treaty in Australia is also signatory to this. When we first heard of this thing, and I made the point that we hear it from the media, there was no courtesy to inform us before they enter into this treaty. We are concerned, and the positions of the South Pacific Ocean is very clear. No nuclear. This is nuclear free. We have seen the devastation, the results of nuclear testing in the Pacific, the Mururoa Islands, and the people are still suffering from the effects of testing those nuclear bombs in the Pacific, and that's the same concern we have with Japan now. The possibility of these things getting out of hand, if there's earthquake or something, and we will, it will spill into the sea, then it will pollute the ocean. It's the same concern. So we are still, voicing this thing and just plead to our Australian brothers, please.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, it is reported that you're not only a seasoned politician, but also a martial art expert with karate black belt Is that true? And also, since we're here in China, we're really curious to know that are you interested or familiar with the Chinese Kung Fu?
Wow. Well. My, the greatest hero is that lead me to taking martial art is this Bruce Lee.
Oh, really?
And when we landed in Hong Kong, and I was asking because I came in 1997 to Hong Kong. That's when I was still the Minister of Finance. We came for one of these meetings, and I said, I want to go and see Bruce Lee's house. And so they take me to his house.
You really went there?
I went there.
How is it?
It's still, it's just like a factory. He manufactured a lot of things there for exercise and that. So it was a tourist attraction. Well, I was already getting into martial art before Bruce Lee stand out. This is one of the artists that we need to not only doing techniques, but he's a great philosopher as well in the martial art, and I really admire it. So yes, to go straight to, but I'm second dan Japanese Shotokan karate. More on the, I guess, the spiritual side of the art. I find that very enlightening. It brings peace and calm to your mind after a big day in office. I would wake up very early in the morning, about 3 o'clock every day in the morning to hit the road. And that's the order of life for me for nearly 20, 30 years.
Wow, unbelievable.
Of my life. I'm old now. So
oh, come on, you look really fit. Maybe that's why I think now I get the answers from all those years of hard work and practice.
Maybe. So I'm still keeping to the form and encourage my ministers to also to walk. If they can't run, just walk.
So, Mr. Prime Minister, it was a great honor having you and talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing with us your insights and your analysis on the bilateral relations. So have a great time here in China.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. And thank you very much for having me.
The friendship between China and Solomon Islands is built on the foundation of mutual respect and trust. And it is believed that as the two countries further elevate the level of mutual trust, more pragmatic cooperation as well as tangible results will follow. With that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Leaders Talk. I'm Zou Yun reporting from Beijing. Many thanks for watching. See you next time.